Sweden does not currently use the euro as its currency and has no plans to replace the krona in the near future. Sweden's Treaty of Accession of 1994 made it subject to the Treaty of Maastricht, which obliges states to join the eurozone once they meet the necessary conditions. Sweden maintains that joining the ERM II is voluntary, and has chosen to remain outside pending public approval by a referendum, thereby intentionally avoiding the fulfillment of the adoption requirements. Status: Sweden joined the European Union in 1995. Its Treaty of Accession made it subject to the Treaty of Maastricht, which obliges states to adopt the euro as the country is found to comply with all the convergence criteria. However, one of the requirements for eurozone membership is 2 years membership of ERM II, and Sweden has chosen not to join this mechanism, which would peg the Swedish currency to the euro a plus or minus 2.25%. The SEK floats freely alongside other currencies. Most of Sweden's major parties believe that it would be in the national interest to join, but they have all pledged to abide by the result of the referendum. The EU has accepted that Sweden is staying outside the eurozone on its own decision. Olli Rehn, the EU Commissioner for Economic Affairs, has said that this is up to Swedish people to decide. Despite this, the euro can be used to pay for goods and services in some places in Sweden. Sweden meets 4 of 5 conditions for joining the euro, and membership in the European exchange rate mechanism is the only condition not met by it, as the table below shows in greater detail. Notes. History. Early monetary unions in Sweden equals. On May 5, 1873, Denmark with Sweden fixed their currencies against gold and formed the Scandinavian Monetary Union. Prior to this date, Sweden used Swedish riksdaler. In 1875, Norway joined this union. An equal-valued krona of the monetary union replaced the 3 legacy currencies at the rate of 1 krona equals a 1/2 Danish riksdaler equals a 1/4 Norwegian speciedaler equals 1 Swedish riksdaler. The new currency became a legal tender and was accepted in all 3 countries: a euro, Denmark, Sweden and Norway. This monetary union lasted until 1914, when it was brought to an end by World War I. As of 2014, the names of the currencies in each country have remained unchanged. Joining the European Union equals, the Swedish European Union membership referendum of 1994 approved a euro with a 52% majority, a euro of the accession treaty, and in 1995 Sweden joined the EU. According to the treaty, Sweden is obliged to adopt the euro once it meets convergence criteria. 2003 referendum equals. A referendum held in September 2003 saw 55.9% vote against membership of the eurozone. As a consequence, Sweden decided in 2003 not to adopt the euro for the time being. If they had voted in favor, Sweden would have adopted the euro on January 1, 2006. A majority of voters in Stockholm County voted in favor of adopting the euro. In Skaraborg County, the people voting yes outnumbered the people voting no, although the invalid and blank votes resulted in no majority for either option. In all other polls in Sweden, the majority voted no. Usage today. Many stores, hotels and restaurants accept euros. This is especially common in some border cities. Shops especially oriented towards foreign tourists are more likely to accept foreign currencies than other shops. Municipalities equals. Official currency status. Matters such as official currency status and legal tender issues are decided by the Swedish Parliament, and the euro is not an official currency of any part of Sweden. Nevertheless, politicians from some municipalities have claimed that the euro is an official currency of their municipalities. This means that the municipality has made an agreement with many shops that they should accept euros. However, this is not mandatory for the stores, and the status as official currency is mostly a marketing device rather than a legal mandate. Haparanda, the only Swedish city near the eurozone, is Haparanda, where almost all stores accept euros as cash and often display prices in euros. Haparanda has become an important shopping city with the establishment of IKEA and other stores. 200,000 Finns live within 150 kilometers distance. Some municipalities, especially Haparanda, wanted to have the euro as a legally official currency, and, for example, contract salaries in euros to employees from Finland. However, this is illegal due to tax laws and salary rules. Haparanda's budget is presented in both currencies. Haparanda has a close cooperation with the neighbor city of Tornio, Finland. Ghana currency S. The town of Ghana currency S claimed itself to having adopted the euro for shops on January 1, 2009. From that date, all residents can use either krona or euro in restaurants and shops, as well as in payments of rent and bills. Dual pricing is used at many places and ATMs dispense either currency without additional charge. Around 60% of stores in the town are reported to have signed up to the scheme, and local banks have developed guidelines to accept euro deposits. This decision was approved and agreed by municipality of Ghana currency S. Ghana currency S has developed a special euro logo for the city. It is not a law in Ghana currency S, just a recommendation. This has been a rather successful PR coup, with good coverage in newspapers, and it has been mentioned also in foreign newspapers. Helsingborg and Malmö paragraph, some shops accept euros, and price tags in euros exist in some tourist-oriented shops, as in more cities in Sweden. Acceptance of and price tags in Danish krona are probably more common. Pajala and Övertorneå yen. The Pajala and Övertorneå yen municipalities have borders to Finland. The euro is often accepted in shops and sometimes shown on price tags, but there is no official adoption of the euro from the municipality point of view. However, there was a political proposal to officially adopt the euro in Pajala. Sollentuna. There was a political proposal in June 2009 from a party in the Sollentuna municipality, that the municipality should adopt the euro as its parallel currency in 2010. Stockholm. Stockholm is the most important tourist city in Sweden, measured as the number of nights spent by tourists. Some tourist-oriented shops accept euros, although there is no official policy from the municipality. Taxi services in Stockholm can be paid in euros. In 2009 there was a rejected political proposal to officially introduce the euro in Stockholm. Cash machines some cash machines may dispense foreign currency. Usually the euro is the foreign currency dispensed, but sometimes British pounds, US dollars, Danish krona or Norwegian krona are dispensed instead. All of these cash machines also dispense Swedish krona. Most of these cash machines are located in major cities, international airports and border areas. Presence of the euro in Swedish law and bank system. The euro is present in some elements of Swedish law, based on EU directives. For example, an EU directive states that all transactions in euros inside the EU shall have the same fees as euro transactions within the country concerned. The Swedish government has made an amendment which states that the directive also applies to krona-based transactions. This means, for example, that euros can be withdrawn without fees from Swedish banks at any ATM in the eurozone, and that krona and euro-based transfers to bank accounts in the European Economic Area can be done over the Internet without a sending fee. The receiving banks can still sometimes charge a fee for receiving the payment, though, although the same EU directive typically makes this impossible for euro-based transfers to eurozone countries. This is different from, for example, Denmark, where banks are required to set the price for international euro transactions within the EEA to the same price as for domestic Danish euro transactions. However, banks in Sweden still decide the exchange rate, and so are able to continue charging a small percentage for exchanging between krona and euros when using card payments. It is also now possible for limited companies to have their accounts and share capital denominated in euros. Plans. Most major political parties in Sweden, including the formerly governing Coalition Alliance for Sweden, which won the 2006 election, and the governing Social Democratic Party, are in principle in favor of introducing the euro. Tommy Waidelich, then economic spokesperson for the Social Democratic Party, ruled out Swedish eurozone membership for the foreseeable future in August 2011. The newspaper Svenska Dagbladet claimed on November 26, 2007 that the question of another euro referendum would be one of the central issues of the 2010 election in Sweden. Prime Minister Fredrik Reinfeldt stated in December 2007 that when more neighbours use the euro, it will be more visible that Sweden does not. Swedish politician Olle Schmidt in an interview with journalists from the European Parliament 2008 when asked when Sweden will have good reasons to adopt the euro, he said, "When the Baltic countries join the euro, the whole Baltic Sea will be surrounded by euro coins. Then the resistance will drop. I hope for a referendum in Sweden in 2010. The Social Democratic Party leader Mona Sahlin at the time has 2008 stated that a new referendum will not occur in the period 2010-2013, because the 2003 referendum still counts. 2009 European elections During the election campaign for the European Parliament elections, Liberal People's Party and Christian Democrats expressed interest in holding a second referendum on euro adoption. However, the Moderate Party and Centre Party thought that the time was ill-chosen. Economic Research, a 2009 economic study from J. James Reed and Ulrich Volz on the possible entry of Sweden in the eurozone has found that it would be likely to have a positive effect. The study of the evolution of the Swedish money market rates shows that they closely follow the euro rates, even during times of economic crisis. This shows that Sweden would not lose in terms of monetary policy autonomy, as the Swedish Central Bank already closely follows the rate set by the European Central Bank. When adopting the euro, Sweden would swap this autonomy on paper for a real influence on the European monetary policy thanks to the gaining of a seat in the ECB's Governing Council. Overall, the study concludes that staying outside of the eurozone implies foregone benefits that Sweden, a small open economy with a sizable and internationally exposed financial sector, would enjoy from adopting an international currency. Opinion polls. Prime Minister Fredrik Reinfeldt stated in December 2007 that there will be no referendum until there is stable support in the polls. The polls have generally showed stable support for the no alternative, except some polls in 2009 showing a support for yes. Since 2010 the polls showed strong support for no. Results polls on the question whether Sweden should abolish the krona and join the euro are regularly carried out, usually by the state statistics agency Statistics Sweden. The results are always published in the press or online. SCB polling question: if there were to be a referendum on the euro by the end of this month, what would you vote? Eurobarometer question: are you for or against a European economic and monetary union with one single currency, the euro? Critique of polling questions: how the polling questions are phrased has a major impact on how people respond. The SCB polling question tends to measure if the electorate favor voting yes/no for Sweden to adopt the euro as soon as possible. However, polls conducted by TNS Polska in Poland showed that this question finds a large group of supporters of euro adoption would vote no to adopting the euro as soon as possible, but that a majority of them would vote yes if asked whether or not the state should adopt the euro 10 years from now. The Eurobarometer question, however, can also be criticized, as it might measure a too big support when asking if you are for or against the EMU in general. Swedish euro coins: the designs for potential Swedish euro coins are not under consideration. It was reported in the media that when Sweden changed the design of the 1 krona coin in 2001 it was in preparation for the euro. A newer portrait of the king was introduced. The 10 krona coin already had a similar portrait. This in fact is from a progress report by the Riksbank on possible Swedish entry into the euro, which states that the lead-in time for coin changeover could be reduced through using the portrait of King Carl XVI Gustaf introduced on the 1 and 10 krona coins in 2001 as the national side on Swedish 1 and 2 euro coins. Only the National Bank can manufacture valid coins by the law of Sweden. Some private collection mint companies have produced Swedish euro coins, claiming that they are copies of test coins made by the Riksbank. Swedish euro coins will not be designed or issued for as long as there is no prior referendum approval for euro adoption. See also: Economy of Sweden under Economic and Monetary Union and Trade Unions, enlargement of the eurozone. References. External links: Central Bank, Central Bank,